Good morning, friends, and welcome back to Creation Station. Today we're going to dive into the world of solid shampoo making, specifically a melt and pour shampoo base that's quick, customizable, and perfect for experienced makers. If you're ready to level up your hair care creations with a base that you can infuse with your own oils, extracts, butters, signature scents, this is the ultimate no-fuss starting point. Let's get into it. Okay, so here we are over at Creation Station. We're going to get right into today's video. We're going to be making that melt and pour solid shampoo base that I talked about in my intro. To my knowledge, only Stevenson is the one that has that Sindopur MB. I don't know, it could be wrong. Please correct me if I'm wrong down in the comments. I'm sure you will. But to my knowledge, they're the only ones who carry that melt and pour solid shampoo base. And so I thought, let's make some. How hard could it possibly be? Go look up the ingredients that they use, find their usage rates, which they're not going to give you their formula, of course, no one does, but a lot of manufacturers will put the usage range, and then it's up to you to figure out, you know, which percentage they're using, or at least try to fall somewhere close. Let me turn this down because I'm too busy blabbing. Anyway, so that's what we're going to do today. I am going to make this melt and pour shampoo base. This is going to be my... I think this is the fourth trial. I'm pretty sure. The first one came out really nice. It poured really, really well. I was very happy with that, but I wasn't happy with the end product. It was a little bit too soft and crumbly. It broke apart fairly easily. The second trial run that I did of it was getting better, and each trial run since then has gotten better. My last one was exceptionally good. I really, really enjoyed that a lot. That's because I took the surfactant percentage and I kind of split off a little bit of that because Stevenson only uses SCI, the Sodium Cocoyl Isethionate, which I did in the first trial and the second trial. In the third trial, I thought, you know what, I need more creaminess. I need a little bit more lather. Let's throw in some Cocamidopropyl Betaine powder. Okay, if you guys can't get that here in the States, you can get it at My Skin Recipes. They are in India. They do charge a little bit more money for shipping, but their customer service is excellent. Their products are excellent. They have so many ingredients that we just cannot get our hands on. No, I'm not affiliated with them. I just love them. Anyways, so that's what I did in the second trial. So in this third trial, I'm backing off of the Cap B powder just a little bit, and the only reason why is because it didn't pour as nicely as I wanted it to. Other than that, the percentages that I used before in trial number 3, oh man alive, y'all, the creaminess, the foam, the lather, the softness. I've never in my life made a shampoo bar that was that soft, but we're going to do that today. So without further blabbing away, let's get right to it, shall we? I do have my water heating up here because we're going to put our surfactant and emulsifier phase in there. I'm going to put my water phase in the microwave on a couple of bursts because this pan is not big enough. I need a pan that's deep enough you know, to cover all of the ingredients so that it'll melt uniformly. And so that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to go ahead and give this a couple of zaps, my water portion in the microwave to heat that up. But before I get to that point, let's just tell you what we're doing, huh? Okay, so we've got our distilled water. I'm going to tell you what the percentage range is that Stevenson has for their Sindopur MB, which is their solid shampoo bar, okay? So their water, they have a range between 10 and 20. I'm keeping this on the lower end of that. I'm sticking with the 10% of distilled water. The next thing that they add is disodium EDTA at 0.1%, so we're going to get that in there. When I formulate, I usually do 0.2%. That's perfectly fine. All right, so we've got our water. We've got our disodium EDTA. Something that they do not have that I wanted to incorporate into mine is the niacinamide, which is your vitamin B3. Okay, so we have this at 1%. Again, Stevenson does not have this in their formula. I do. I wanted it. And that's literally, really, besides the Cap B powder, those are the two changes that I made. Everything else pretty much is the same as the ingredients that they used. All right, we've got our powders all in here now. Next thing is our glycerin. They have their usage range between 10 and 20. We're sticking on the bottom end of that. We're just going to keep that at the 10% with our glycerin. This is the humectant, but it's also a solvent. And so this is going to help the bar be remeltable, the base rather, be remeltable. All right, after the glycerin comes the solvent, which is propylene glycol. This is going to help the base be a remeltable base, just like their melt and pour soap bases. They have the range on the propylene glycol between 20 to 40. Holy yikes, man. That's a lot of freaking PG. So we're going to keep it on the bottom end of that. We're going to include this at the 20%. We want it to be remeltable. We don't want it to be plasticized and feel rubbery. And that can happen if you put too much glycerin as your solvent or too much propylene glycol as your solvent. I've said this in another video, actually a couple of videos that I've done now. In particular, the video where I did a humongous batch of melt and pour soap from scratch. I'll put the link down below in case you guys didn't view that. It's a very popular video. Anyways, I said it in there, you know, if you use too much of a solvent, you're going to get a plasticized feel, a rubbery feel. You know, it's just not going to be good. It's going to be, your melt and pour soap will be bendable, and that's not good. All right, that is it for our water portion. Like I said, I'm going to go ahead and stick this off to the side. Most of my powders actually are already dissolved, and I didn't even heat up that water, so that's a bonus. Yay for me. Okay, that's the water portion. Let's move on to our surfactant phase, which also has our emulsifier. Speaking of emulsifiers, in here we have glyceryl stearate. They have their percentage rate at 20 to 40%. I'm sticking at the lower end of that with the 20% because I don't want it to get too waxy feeling, and you will get that if you use too much. All right, so 20% on the glyceryl stearate. Next up, we're going to be putting in some caprylic capric triglycerides. They have theirs at 0.5 to 1%. We are including it at 1%. And this can help the base to not be crumbly at the end. And next we're going to put on our mask because we're going to go ahead and add those surfactants. Okay, now that we have our mask on, we're going to go ahead and add our SCI, which is the Sodium Cocoyl Isethionate. They have their range at 20 to 40%. I am going to be adding ours at 33.9%. Go very slow so you can try to avoid these powders wafting up. They're still going to, but at least let's try to minimize that. You don't want to breathe this stuff in. I've never seen anybody try to make this melt and pour solid shampoo base. I've seen pourable, and I just formulated a pourable shampoo bar, which gave me the idea to do this. I've seen people working with the Sindo Pour MB. Pretty sure Katie Carson did a whole video on it, and she really liked the base. So after I got done formulating my own pourable, not a melt and pourable, you can't remelt it, but a pourable shampoo bar, I thought, let me try to just recreate what Stevenson did over there. How hard could it possibly be? It's not. It's really not. All right, so we got our SCI in here at 33.9%, and then I am going to add just a little bit of my Cocamidopropyl Betaine powder at 2%. Because I do want that in there. I just don't want as much as I put in trial number 3. That was just a little bit too much. I'll try to break up this clump right here because I didn't sift. I didn't like that it wasn't as pourable as I wanted it to be. All right, all of that being said, you guys, let's go ahead and get this right into our container here. And we are going to heat this. There's nothing really to see. Anyways, I'll bring you guys back when it becomes a stirrable consistency. All right, you guys, everything is melted down really nicely. We have a nice, smooth, creamy frosting texture. We're going to go ahead and add our water portion now that has our solvents in them. And you'll see this thin out quite a bit now. Take our temp. Just a couple more stirs to get that down just a little bit. They used phenoxyethanol as their preservative. I am using Euxyl PE 9010 in combination with caprylyl glycol. So I'm using the Euxyl at 1% and I'm using the caprylyl glycol at 0.5%. Before we add the preservative, though, we're going to go ahead and add the last ingredient that they have in their formula, which is the hydrolyzed vegetable protein. I do not have the vegetable protein. I do have hydrolyzed soy protein. So that is what I am going to be adding today. Hydrolyzed soy protein, that's going to be at 0.5%. They have their usage rate at 0.1 to 0.5. I'm using it at the 0.5. Check our temps again. Because it's Euxyl, and because Euxyl can withstand a little bit of a higher temperature, we can go ahead and add that now. And then I'm going to give it a couple of little buzzes with my immersion blender. Feel free to use your overhead stand mixer if you have one. I do have one, I just did not break that out today. And then we will be ready to pour. Then I am just going to leave this until tomorrow. I'm not going to peek, I'm not going to cheat. Yesterday, when I did trial number 3 of this formula, and I had quite a bit more of the Cap B powder. I had 6.8% instead of the 2%, and I adored it. The feel of that was incredible, but I didn't like that it wasn't as pourable as I needed it to be, like I've mentioned a couple of times. So now we've dropped that percentage down to only 2%. I'm hoping that I'm still going to get that really nice, luxurious, creamy lather. Well, let's just give this a couple of buzzes. Try not to incorporate any air if you can. It's going to happen, but try to minimize it by keeping the bell of your immersion blender all the way down on the bottom. Tilt it a little bit if you have to, but don't bring it up. I don't want it to get too thick to the point where, you know, I'm not going to be able to pour this easily. There's a fine line between, you know, emulsifying it well enough and then too much. So let's see about the pourable consistency. See, it's almost a little bit too gloppy for my liking, but that being said, it's way better than version number 3. This is like really, really thick whipped cream, or I don't know, any of you East Coasters that have ever had fluff in the jar. And when we were kids, we used to have Fluff-a-Nutter sandwiches, which is fluff and peanut butter. And if you've never had that, you're missing out. See, I probably should have stopped emulsifying before I did. Then I would not have had as much of a problem pouring as I did. And this is already solidifying really nicely in the mold, just like yesterday's. I didn't have any, you know, worries about that. I'm just trying to get like all of this off of here. That glycerol stearate can tend to feel waxy, but it is what lends to the hardness of the finished product as well as the creaminess. Okay, you guys, I did my best to get this into the mold and clean up the edges a little bit. It's already starting to firm up. A little bit of tackiness you can see on my gloves, but it's already starting to firm up really well. Now keep in mind, this is not the finished product. This is just your melt and pour solid shampoo base, to which you can have lots of different additives. You can't go above 5%, however, in your additives. Good news for all of us is I spent a long time doing all of this stuff, and I came up with a lot of different scenarios of additives that you can use. All different kinds of pairings with all different kinds of additives, and we will get into that as soon as we have this solidify. It is going to be tomorrow for me, a couple of seconds for you. Pop them out of the mold. Then we're going to use this to melt it down, add our additives, remold it, and then you have your finished shampoo bar. All right, so stick around, we're not done yet. Okay, I'm back. It is the next day. I actually was able to pop these out of the mold within like an hour and a half, so that was pretty good. But I did let them sit out to air dry overnight. They're not hard as a rock. I can press and not leave an impression. If I really tried hard, I probably could break it in half, but that's not our point, right? If you guys are going to be making a larger batch than this, put it in a loaf mold. That'll be way easier, and then you can just slice off you know, like little soap bars of it. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and stick this into our beaker again. I'm going to get that into the water bath and start melting that down. And then I'm going to put some additives in there to make our final shampoo bar. So let's just go ahead and cut through this. I'm going to do all of them. And I'm going to leave one bar just as it is. As far as after I add all my additives, that's going to be the final shampoo bar. But then the other two, I'm going to split them off into a half and half bar with my conditioner, with my melt and pour conditioner base, which is coming up right after this video, so stay tuned for that. All right, we're just going to go ahead and pop this right into our water bath here and let that start melting down. So while that is melting down, I'm going to go ahead and talk to you really quick about the different additives that I am going to be adding to my solid shampoo bar. Remember, no more than 5%, right? So I'm going to be doing 95% on the melt and pour solid shampoo base, and then I'm going to be doing 5% total on all the rest of my additives. So what we have here is cocoa butter. So that is going to give a little bit of firmness, creaminess. It's also an occlusive, and it can add to shine. Next, I'm going to be putting in some isoamyl cocoate, which is a dry emollient, and this offsets any drag that you may have. I'm going to be adding some polyquat 10 because this is for slip and detangling, and I'm going to combine that with my liquid panthenol, and of course we use that as a moisturizer and to strengthen our hair. So I'm going to go ahead and give this just a couple of zaps. It's starting to melt already just because of room temperature, because it's very hot here. What is it? It is 75 here in this shop because we do not have air conditioning over here. We have fans, no air conditioning. Anyways, this is starting to melt a little bit. I'm going to give it a couple of zaps. I'm going to add the isoamyl cocoate. I'm going to combine my polyquat and my panthenol together to make a little slurry, add all of those together, and then that will be ready for when I'm ready to add them to the mix. So I'll bring you back when we're ready to do that. Okay, we are all melted down and we're ready to add the rest of our additives. I'm going to be adding a little bit of color to this one. We're going to be adding some forest green mica. Now with your colorants, you guys, for every 8 ounces, just use roughly 1/4 teaspoon of mica. Otherwise, you might find that it will start settling on the bottom of whatever vessel it is that you're going to pour it into. I am scenting the shampoo portion of this with lemongrass sage. And like I said, I've already done my conditioner bars. That video will be coming after this one. But I split off half of it. I've got my other, let's see, I've got like 2 full bars left over there. But I split half and half, so I'm going to be doing half shampoo and half conditioner so we can have a 2-in-1 experience in just one bar. And they're both the melt and pour bases that I have added several different types of additives. Let me give my additives a little bit of a stir. We're going to get those into the pool. So the PDF of this formula will have included all of the different additives that you can add to the melt and pour solid shampoo base, as well as combinations, nice pairings of different additives, including the one that I just used for myself. You can see how this is staying fluid. Now, granted, I do still have it in the pot of hot water. I suggest that you do that if you're having trouble keeping your base liquefied. Now, I'm going to leave that just for a second because I want to give a little bit of a blast with my heat gun to the tops of these solid conditioner bars, just to help the shampoo base adhere and so we don't have anything splitting. So I'm going to do this until I see just a little bit of runoff. And now I'm ready to pour. You can see how nice and fluid this stays if you leave it in your pot of hot water I'm just going to give it a quick little spritz with some alcohol, just in case there's any bubbles that are floating there up on the top. And that's it, you guys. We are going to leave this set up, and I will bring you back when we are ready to unmold. And here we have the finished product, you guys. You saw me yesterday, already put all of the additives in for our solid shampoo bar. It's still a bit tacky. What I like to do now is just go ahead and leave this for at least a week out in the open air to just dry and kind of, you know, get a little bit more firm. But here it is. Here is this shampoo bar. So this was the Melt and Pour Solid Shampoo Base. Then we added our additives and remolded it. And there you go. There's your solid shampoo bar finished product. So that's that. And then we have our 2-in-1 solid shampoo bar combined with our solid conditioner bar, both of which were the Melt and Pour base that we made, melted it down, added additives, and then re-poured. And so this is the 2-in-1. This is the conditioner bar, which is complete now. Same situation. The video is coming up after this. Melt and Pour base, remelt it back down, put in all your additives, remold it, and this is the finished product. So there you go. Stick around, you guys, for the conditioner bar. Like I said, that is coming up next. Let's test out the lather and see how that's doing. I have a little disc that was leftover pour from yesterday, so we're going to go ahead and dunk that in the water, get some in our hands, and we're going to take a look and see how this lather is. Now again, this is the finished bar after I've had all my additives in here. Okay. This lather is ridiculous. Oop, there goes my ring off my finger. Look at this, you guys. That was just a couple of really, really fast, light swipes with the bar. And look at this lather. Look at that. Look at that. I hardly used any of that product. You saw me. Couple of swipes, that was it. This is fantastic. And the feel, like I said, it's just the softest feel that I've ever made in a shampoo bar. So this is going to give me this slip that I desired and the shine on my hair when I'm done. But look at that. That's fantastic lather. I hardly used any. I highly recommend trying this out, you guys. Leave me a comment down below and let me know if you did try this and what you thought of it. Share this with anybody that you think could benefit from it. If you haven't already subscribed, I invite you to do so. Would love to have you as part of the community here. And if you are wanting the full PDF written formula, along with all of the suggestions for additives and the pairings for all of the additives for specific hair needs, head on over to my Patreon, because that's where you can grab that PDF download, okay? That is going to do it, though, for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. Give it a thumbs up if you did. Until we meet again, though, stay creative, stay cool, and we'll see you in the next one.